Alright, here's a quick one how to create rain in Blender using NeXus. I've used it in this example scene, and as you can see we have a bunch of emitters coming down. And once we hit an object, it will create more splatters and more raindrops. By the way, all the product files are over on Patreon as well. What you're going to need is, of course, an NX emitter. We're going to rotate it by 90 degrees, minus, move it up, add a plane so it can collide with something. To make it maybe a bit more interesting, let's add also a cone. Let's leave it where it is. Select everything with A, move it up a bit. I just do not want to see the grid lines here. I still like them on the outside. Press play. And of course, everything is going through the objects because we did not set up an NX collider yet. Select the eyedropper with the green plus button here. There you can select multiple meshes at once. We are going to change it, however, we do not want to bounce it much. Set it to 2, friction to 70, scatter to 40. Let's press play again, and the particles collide with the object as intended. We can rename this to E_rain for now, just to keep it a bit organized. We need a gravity modifier, just so the objects can fall a bit realistically. On top of that, we're going to add an NX drag, so it also has a bit of resistance while falling. Then what we can do is change the radius size, or at least the variation, to 0.01. Change the mass variation by 0.2. And then what we also want to do is add an NX spin. So depending on where the wind is coming from, the raindrops should also move along this direction. Go to the layer type and select tangential. This is coming handy once you have a wind modifier that we do not want for now. Once we have that, we're going to add an nxQuestion modifier. Click the plus button, question, and right now we're going to go down to the data tab and change this one to the flags. Once the particles hit an object or hit a particle or stuck or whatever, a bunch of stuff can happen. So we select hit object, click the plus, add an action. So once our particle hits an object, we wanted to change the color from what it is right now, which should be blue, to yellow. So all the yellow particles are the ones that are hitting the object, or any object for that matter. But since we also have a bit of bounce and the particles have multiple colliders, we only wanted to detect it once. So once the particle hit an object one time, then it should do something. And everything else after that, do not care about it. It will just make life a bit easier once we have more particles. But we do not want it to change the color. We want it to spawn new particles. So once it hits an object, it will create a little splash and it creates more tiny droplets that come out of it. So once we press play, as you can see, nothing happens because we did not choose an emitter yet. If we press play, we will see that nothing happens because we are choosing the same emitter that the rain is coming from. What you need to do is add a new emitter, call this one maybe splatter. And now we're going to select this one here under the nxQuestion. Now we will see a bunch of particles that are being emitted here, but we also do not want the particles to emit from the splat itself. That's why we go there. On the birth rate, we're selecting birth rate of 0, speed of 0, display, let's set it to red so we have something different. Go under the nxQuestion and let's keep it at inherit parent. Press play. And we see that it does not inherit the color. Let's uncheck this. Let's just keep it like that. So for every particle that is hitting our cone, we are emitting 10 particles from this spot. Let's check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good, I can count. But now we do not want these particles to stay around for a long time. don't want the particles to stay there for 45 frames. What we do want, if you just want to sell an illusion of rain, you can play around with the frame settings, but I choose 2. So the particles will fall down. We have some splashes here and there. The splashes are disappearing after 2 frames. But now we have all the particles, or the original particles, that are just staying and are accumulating down there. And also our particle count will just go up. Depends on what you want to do. If you want to keep the particles and want to use them later on, so it's just collecting some of the water or liquid or whatever you want to do, fine. But I do not want that. I want them to be killed once they're hitting their target. We're going to add another action, set the action to kill. So once our object is hitting a collider once, it's going to spawn 10 particles in this spot, and then it's going to kill this original particle. So now what we will see is only the rain plus the splashes of the rain itself. And then of course you can play around with adding a wind modifier. Change this to, let's rotate it by 90 degrees. Move it up. Let's see. So our particles are being thrown in a different direction, and our particles should also be changing the direction with the spin. Let's change the display type to an arrow, for example. So they're all following this curve. Let's turn this one off for now. And you see they're all pointing in a different direction. Let's turn it back on. So you can have the raindrops, for example, if you want to make them a bit bigger in the bottom and a bit small on top, so if the teardrop, you can do it like this. Let's change it back to a point, go back, press play, and then you can add multiple colliders if you want. Let's add maybe another one here. Let's add a torus. Make it smaller, move it up, add this one also to the collider tab. So you have 3 different objects that have a collider, and you have rain that is being generated and being killed once they're touching their target. Let's remove this one for now. Go under the rain, click on export, create point cloud. All do not show the particles anymore. Same for the splatter objects. Do not show, export, all. Let's press play. Now we have a bunch of particles, and I still have the torus here. We have a bunch of particles that are being created once they're hitting their target or their object. You can change the radius under the geometry nodes tab. Let's add a multiply for now. Let's drag out the radius, multiply, add it here, and let's change it to 0.1 maybe. Or we can actually also add a random modifier or random node. Then we're going to change the seed every frame or every second. And we're going to have a maximum radius of 0.1. So all of our rain droplets will be tiny, but the splashes are still big. So what we can do is just copy this for now, paste it in here. So the same radius goes into there. The multiply goes into radius. And now we also have different sized splashes here. Go into render view. Let's add sunlight. Maybe like that. You can still see our particles. Why? Ah no, they're just being rendered out as the particle color itself. Let's add a new material. Go into transmission, full roughness to whatever, something low, and change it here to material. Change this one also to material, and now we have translucent or see-through raindrops falling down, and that you can render. You can also use a motion blur, and this one looks maybe a bit too much. I don't know. If you don't like a look, you can go back to the nxQuestion. Let's say 10 particles are too many. Let's say it should spawn just 3 particles per hit. Then we have like a finer mist that's going on. You can also play around with the radius. You can play around with the shaders. You can add different colliders. This is the basic setup that you will need to add in any scene. And what I didn't try yet, what I can do live, and we'll see if it works, is that add an nxFluid modifier, maybe to make it a bit better. Create a group, call this one fluid, add the emitter to the group fluid with a big L. It's important, it has to be a big L, otherwise it doesn't work. I'm joking, of course. So let's go under the fluid tab. Let's keep it at PBD. Let's only affect the fluid emitter, and let's maybe remove the kill particle on hit. So let's disable the geometry nodes for now, and I'm disabling it here because once I remove the geometry or the export tab here, I will lose all the radius and everything I set up before. So now we should be back to just our particles. Display, show particles, emitter, show particles. So now it should act like a fluid and it's running down. Let's turn it off. Let's see how it looks like without the nxFluid. Add it back in. So it's running down more like a fluid. We can change it to flip, for example. We are in the domain. And now we want to add an NX measure, add an emitter, add the rain. It's a bit too big, but whatever. Maybe you can also change it to once it hits an object, then it should use the measure. Let's see. Once it hits, I want it to be put into a group. Can I do that? Set add to group. We want to call this puddle. And we're going to set the group to puddle. We're going to go to the measure, and only the particles in the group puddle, so the ones that have hit the object, will turn into a mesh. It's activated. And it actually works. Not that I'm surprised, of course. I knew it was going to happen like that. Divided by 2, maybe too much. Smooth it out maybe by the plus. If you want to go for that look, you can go for it. I don't know what you want to use it for, but you can. You absolutely can. You have free will.